Welcome Aquarius to your in-depth weekly forecast for week commencing the 17th of June for the ascendant, the sun or the moon. On the screen now I'm showing the event chart right at the start of the week. We always need to be mindful of any planets that are on the angles, and of course Pluto in your sign in retrograde, very close to your first house cusp. This is where we manifest our individuality. Now that is potentially going to be a little tricky for you this week, because you've had a period in the early part of June where the cluster of energy in Gemini has really helped you to shine brightly. And that creativity, flair and warmth has been something to behold. But unfortunately last week, your traditional ruler Saturn and the dreamy influence of Neptune both applied a brake to the fabulous energy that had been manifesting for you, so you may have encountered some frustration. But the good news is that the moon, you can see, is right at the top of your chart in your sister air sign of Libra, and that's forging a very positive angle to the sun. So if you do need to punch across a message with a vision, with passion, that combination will certainly help. But what about the role of Neptune? Well, if you recall, it did square up at both Mercury and Venus as last week came to a close, and before that the Sun as well. So what we've got as we come into this new week is that Neptune's still very, very potent. When it comes to resources and anything to do with buying or selling, what Neptune could do is make you a bit idealistic. The fifth house is where you really want to show that warmth. So just be aware that although Mercury and Venus come into a beautiful alliance as the week begins, and it may coincide with someone recognizing the talents that you have, you still need to stay very clear-minded about value and value your worth particularly. But also at the beginning of last week, Pluto in your sign clashed in a major way with Mars. If you felt very frustrated with things in your home, family or emotional life, not a surprise. If you got contractors in and they're not going at the speed that's been agreed, or not even turning up, which can happen of course, that could have been very aggravating. But Mars retains its place in your fourth house and is going to give you a big amount of extra drive to keep moving forwards in getting something physical reformed around where you live. It could even be moving altogether. But its link to Jupiter is very, very positive. It's a semi-sextile. That 30-degree angle can therefore see you use the passion of Mars instinctively, emotion, fourth, against Jupiter in the fifth, which is about the potential for risk. So if you've got talents and you're really, really invested in them, keep driving forwards with that combination's help. Your modern ruler Uranus is also in a semi-sextile to the Sun. So again, like Mars, in your fourth house. So I guess what they're both saying to you is don't be fearful of showing your emotions, even when it comes to expressing your talent. But that combination of Mercury and Venus on Monday could, as I mentioned, bring some really good news. The moon feeds into them as well. But later on Monday, they both together move into the sign of Cancer, which for you is house 6, very practical. But Cancer, of course, is a sign that's very much to do with nurture, it's feeling, it's ruled by the moon. But it just is, well, they're pushing you to think, Mercury, about your life structure. Venus in the sixth house can be about how you can practically work on your relationships, be a bit more considerate. It could be around the domestic load, taking on a bit more, being a little bit more efficient in terms of your life organisation. If you're someone who likes space, Aquarians often do, a great time to declutter, they're then going to be supported by the Sun, which moves on Thursday on the back of that summer solstice into Cancer too. Brilliant. 3 planets together, the Sun, the luminary, and Mercury and Venus in the sixth house. This is an area where you can want to be more efficient, more organised, but also it's an area where you can apply lots of small but important changes. You know, change your diet 5% in slightly a better way, improve your fitness output 5%, become a little bit more aware of nutrition, exactly what you're actually eating, cooking from scratch, and suddenly you've got a 20% improvement just by looking at the details, which is what the sixth house can be about. The problem is Pluto is very much about you in terms of your ego, the first house, your identity. The sixth house can be where we need to be a bit more sacrificing and supportive of others. They don't quite align, but you can still work very hard. And I think that energy in your fourth house is really asking you to show your humanity, and the connection that Venus and Mercury will make as this week goes on with Mars is very, very positive. So if you're wanting to redecorate or to reorder your home in some way, move the furniture around, empty out the loft or the garage or the garden shed, work on your garden in a way which makes things a little bit more pleasant to be in. All of these things can bring a lot of pleasure, even if they are a bit more practical. But that brings us to the full moon at the end of the week, because that is in house 12. A 12th house full moon is sensitive. And if you are feeling a little world weary as this week draws to a close, one of the things the full moon asks you to do, particularly with Neptune feeding into it, is give yourself permission to have some time out. Whether it is a lie-in, whether it's going for a nice sauna, or perhaps going for a steam or a massage. Do something for you which is enriching to your welfare, whether it's psychological or physical welfare. And that's a great way to serve that particular full moon. It's been a pleasure being with you, Aquarius. Have a great week. And if you've yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so now.